Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for all who have given us suggestions and have said they'd rather, instead of the long video, have it separated from the overview, or my bad, the recap, and then this week's. So we decided to separate it. This is going to be the recap video for week 13. We do hope you enjoy. I am your host, Avengers. Alongside me is, like always, our other host, Lima.
Hey guys, how's it going this week? So like Avenger said, thanks for giving us this idea and we think it's a great idea, so we're gonna go with it.
So starting off with week 13, a lot of losses and a lot of wins. Like always, conferences, divisions, still trying to fight for that race, getting super close to the end of the season. What do you think, Lima? Do you think this league has become even more competitive from last season? Looking at all the people that
Yeah,
from last season didn't do so well, that they're trying to fight for a spot this season.
yeah, I think there's a lot more people sitting on the bubble of making the playoffs, and so it's making these last few weeks very interesting and very competitive, which is what we like to see.
And right you are. Starting off with this week, we do have King of Boston, the Patriots, who made it to the playoffs last season, fighting again to make another playoffs appearance versus our friend Lil Killa. A very one-sided game, as we can tell. But Lil Killa, like we've always said, is getting better. He plays for fun though. He still did not that badly. Yeah, the stats for quarterback, as we see, Jimmy did do better. 234, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and 1 sack only allowed. But Lil Killa still got 2 interceptions, so it helps his defense at least. Uh,
And Amari Cooper with 6 receptions for 151 yards. That was a good performance.
that was a very good performance for him, actually.
And really, he did slow down the Patriots' pass game because if you look at it, you see Brandon Cooks with only 2 receptions for 90 yards. So those were just two big plays, but the rest of it, he held everybody down to decent stats and receptions.
Yeah. Going back to rushing though, as you see, Dion, he stopped. He has been for any team, no matter what they are. No one runs against him. Dion Lewis, 77 yards, 27 attempts, 2.9 average, one
Yeah,
touchdown, one fumble.
yeah, you can tell a little bit of forcing the ball there, but you know,
Defensive side, as always, we're gonna look at these QB sacks. Jonathan Freeney with 2, Eric Rowe with 2, and Trey Flowers with 2. Trey Flowers still playing like he always has. His actually 2 solo tackles, and his only 2 tackles were the 2 sacks though.
yeah, but you can tell a lot of pressure by the Patriots, and that's probably what caused a lot of those turnovers.
Interception side, 2 by Eric Rowe, 2 by Malcolm Butler. Malcolm Butler, a legend for the Patriots. And then everybody else, even Dante Hightower, middle linebacker, with his own
And
interception.
Donta Hightower also returned that interception for a touchdown, a 70-yard pick six.
Yeah, and he was the only person with a pick six. So as always,
Not the only person with the defensive touchdown, though. Shea McClellan had a fumble recovery that he returned for a touchdown.
yeah, it looks like it
So that
was
was a good.
close though on Lil Killer's side of the field, with it only being 14 yards.
Yeah.
Good job to both,
So
like always,
let's
and
see
good.
what we got next.
Who do we have next on this list? The Colts at the Browns. And just by before we go in, 41-28. Did you see it being this kind of game for the Browns?
No, I really didn't. Honestly, I thought this was going to be a one-score game. Honestly, I thought this was going to be a type of game where, whoever had the ball last and whoever had the last opportunity to score would win the game. because these two know each other very well.
Ooh, these player stats though. Ooh, Blake Bortles, aka now called choke artist by Justin Maldo, did have 446 yards and 4 touchdowns, but he did throw 5 picks. As
Yeah,
you
and
can
that's
see,
most likely the difference maker of this game.
his longest pass was a 99, so he was on his 1 yard line and threw a deep pass. Colin Kaepernick and Sam Bradford, neither of them. Uh, but as you can see, they neither of them threw a pick. Actually, Colin Kaepernick not even that good anymore. Also not being bad. Uh, and it looks to be that Colin Kaepernick actually took over most of that game with those passing yards of 239.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if there was an injury with one of the two quarterbacks,
I think
because it
Sam
was
Bradford is
interesting to see
actually
both.
hurt. I think Sam Bradford is hurt on the season. Well, not for the rest of the season, but he is hurt for a couple weeks. So I think he might have come in. He was the starting and came in, threw his touchdowns, and got hurt. As you can see, he was sacked twice, and so was Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised
Well,
neither of them, not both of them, got hurt, and only one of them did.
yeah, but I'm sure it didn't hurt to have Kaepernick come in because he's a dual threat. He can throw and run. So you see,
Rushing,
he had 4 rushes for 24 yards and a touchdown.
yeah. As we all know from last week for the recap, Dalvin Cook, also known as Dalvin Glasney, is hurt. I think he's hurt for another 4 weeks. So Isaiah Crowell, 11 attempts, 73 yards, not the worst, but with his speed, he's not really gonna go all over the place on people. Darius Jackson, 19 attempts, 133 yards and a touchdown. So I think, yeah, like you said, I don't think Colin Kaepernick was a bad pickup for a backup.
Oh, and if you go look at receptions, you'll see two big performances from each team with Corey
Corey
Coleman with
Coleman,
4 receptions for 185 yards and O.J. Howard with 9 receptions for 184 yards.
which is a big thing since I don't think O.J. Howard's the fastest tight end, but as you can see, his run after catch is a 58, and his longest was 54 yards. So it looks like no one could catch up to O.J. Howard on one play.
Yeah, and you see Chris Conley was the one with the 95-yard long reception. And then
Yeah,
also look at Coleman, he's got a 95-yard long reception. So he had 2 long touchdowns in that game.
yeah. John Brown actually not doing bad himself, also with a touchdown. These four tops are all over 100 yards. Each have their own touchdown. O.J. Howard actually having 2 touchdowns though, but with
Yeah.
his height of 6'6", I think we know how that worked out in the end zone. And then on to defense though, we'll see. Barcavius Mingo, middle linebacker with a sack. Miles Garrett, of course, having a sack. J.J. Watt having his own sack. Darius Glanton having a sack. So it looks like there was only one sack by the Colts. And as you can see, there were 4 by the Browns.
Yeah. And then if you go over to interceptions, you see that he had 3 interceptions with his linebacker, so that
But
probably were
is
all used
Patrick
interceptions.
on Wazir, his user though?
Yeah, we won't know for sure, but with 3 interceptions, you'd assume so.
Yeah. Tyron Matthew,
Of
the
course, he's
the
gonna be
honey
in there.
badger. No matter his size, even though he's only 5'9", he will get up there and he will make you pay for throwing to his side. But also another free safety, Darby Gallery coming in, rookie getting his own interception, only 2 inches taller. So don't be hating on the short people. when they're coming up making plays. Let's see, any defensive touchdowns though? No. So it was all on offense for this for the Colts, and those turnarounds, and then the offensive plays. Good job to both though. Hopefully things pick up for either side in the rest of their season.
Yeah. And if we move down to our next played game, you see the Cardinals and the Giants, and this was a statement win for the Giants, having the up and
Whew.
down season, and he came out to make a statement. He did just that with the 71-42 win over the Cardinals.
Yeah, but letting up 42 points though for the Giants in that defense,
Yeah,
that's letting up a
I mean,
lot of points.
yeah, but you could tell, Oh, and with he had 30 points in the fourth quarter, so
Yeah.
this was probably a still winnable game for the Cardinals going into the fourth quarter, and then Julio just took off with his offense in the fourth quarter.
Player stats: Michael Hatch, the QB, taking over for Eli Manning this season. 430 yards and 4 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. And Robert Ellsworth, the rookie quarterback, taking over for Carson Palmer. 334 yards, 2 touchdowns, but throwing those 3 interceptions. Both sacked, but Robert Ellsworth with 4. Ooh. We'll see. What's the completion rating? So, for Michael Hatch, 30 for 41, and Ellsworth, 19 for 38. We can see who got off that ball more. And rushing, with actually both sides not doing too bad. Oh, but Paul Perkins did get injured, I think, in this game.
Yeah, he did.
Derek Favors, 4 touchdowns, 171 yards, and 21 attempts. Still rushing for 8.1. That's a first down every 2 plays plus some. But then you see
Yeah,
this rookie for the Giants, Jordan Eason, 2 attempts only and 31 yards. No touchdown, but he came in and played.
yeah, and if you go over, you could see he's as long as 33, so he had that one good run. Which, is when you only get two attempts, one good run. That's a
Oh,
50,
it looks like
50,
that.
50.
It looks like 1 attempt he lost 2 yards. Then if he had
Yeah,
31
it was
total,
a good play.
yeah, that probably got him down the field for a touchdown, passing touchdown, or it might have been, yeah, receiving. OBJ, Trey Shirley, tied in actually coming up for this. Uh,
Wow.
oh, and Sterling Shepard, the duo to go with Odell, did not reach over 100 yards.
Yeah, he still get the six receptions for a touchdown and the 80 yards, which isn't too bad. But when you got Odell with 144 receiving yards on 12 receptions,
And a
you
touchdown.
know that's a guy you can count on.
Yeah. Marcus Soto has been the Cardinals' #1 wide receiver, still making over 100 yards on 7 attempts and a touchdown himself. So, and then defense, because it looked like defense came up a little bit. 1.5 by Takaris McKinley, 1.5 by Devi Higgins, a linebacker left in, Von Bell, a free safety, getting a sack, and then Robert Kimdichie, defensive tackle. But Kimdichie always plays well, so
Yeah.
I'm really not
And,
surprised about that one.
moving over to interceptions, you see that Eli Apple had two interceptions, and they were actually both for pick sixes.
Oh,
So
were they
then
really?
that's
Yeah, they were. Two
yeah.
pick sixes for Eli Apple. No longer a rookie, but I don't think he's that high of an overall. But that is a game for him. And then Gerard Davis, middle linebacker, probably his user, also having a pick. So good job to the Giants. Julio making his statement, saying he's still not out of this completely. Who's next on our list was my game. It was a very terrible game. For my side, Debo played well. Uh, I did, as you can see, I did stop his passing game though. He had 0 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. I had 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. I couldn't get anything going on offense for some reason this week, but he deserved the win. But of course, his game came from rushing. I did start stopping his his rushing game a little bit. That's why he had 24 attempts for 255 yards. Three of the why he had 255 was because he had 3 big gains out of the same formation. I couldn't stop that formation for some reason, no matter what I was in. But he deserved that off the rushing.
Yeah, you see both quarterbacks throwing 3 interceptions.
Yeah,
1 touchdown for Deshaun Kaiser, but no touchdowns for Teddy Bridgewater and 3 interceptions thrown. So yeah, you did stop his passing game, but like as you mentioned,
that rushing
Latavius
game.
Murray with 24 attempts for 255 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah. 5 broken tackles, as you
And
can see there. 5 broken tackles. Like, he would break
yeah,
every tackle given on him.
and I want to point out the yards after contact is 105, so that goes to show how good he is at getting off of tackles.
Receiving, the receiving who had the most was his receiver, Casey Booth, rookie. And then Jake Butt. But Rashard Perryman playing like a beast he always has for me this season. And then Christian Coley. He's not the fastest, but he did have that touchdown for me.
Yeah, and you see Laquan Treadwell, one of his favorite targets, only getting 2 receptions for 43 yards.
I didn't throw to Darren Waller very much. Darren Waller was like always covered for this game. I don't if he wasn't covered so much, it would have been a closer game. Darren Waller has been one of my favorite targets because he's got good speed and he gets open. Darren Waller, 6'6", always somehow getting open. Defensively, we can see why with sacks, 2 by Von Miller. Since you put Von Miller, it is really hard, especially with my right side of my offensive line being my weakest link. So
And Von Miller with the 2 sacks, but he also had an interception.
yeah, I didn't understand the interception he got though. The interception he got was kind of weird. But Timmy Jernigan, the left end, didn't play very well last season when I started, but that was because he was so low because of his confidence being low. But this season he's come out to play. Uh, then Daniel Hunter, and then Prince Wara, a cornerback. Those cornerback blitzes. But then Matthew Ioannidis, I got him in free agency over Debo. Actually, Debo was the person going after him, and I actually outbid him for Ioannidis playing. And then, as you said, interceptions, one by Von Miller. B.J. Payton, which I actually traded Lil Killa for. Not the highest overall, but he's actually pretty good. Zachary Orr getting and Eric Weddle getting one. But you see Tim Williams and Asher Tolliver getting one themselves.
Yeah, and Tim Williams and Von Miller both had defensive touchdowns in that one. But I want to look. You see Von Miller with no interception return yards, but he had that touchdown. So was he in the end zone when he
Yeah,
intercepted
it
that?
was the why I say it was weird. It was because it was a play, and it was that weird animation that your quarterback does, where they kind of like try to throw it, but it's like that drop throw. But for some reason, Von Miller somehow came in, and he was right on top of me at the same time, and the ball was not even like there was in like there would realistically Von Miller would never have been able to get in that, but he somehow did. And that's how he got that touchdown for him.
Okay.
So, but good job to Debo. Really hard opponent. Was really fun to play. And then we have Denver versus Willie P. Actually, Youngly versus the Willie P. Where the Dolphins won this game. 41 to 34. I didn't. see we actually losing to Willie P
Yeah,
this week.
yeah, I didn't think so either. But if you go in, you see that he had a huge game offensively with 446 pass yards and 169 rush yards. So he came out and made a statement offensively.
Yeah. I think Paxton Lynch actually got hurt for Ungwe. That's why you see Jay Cutler actually having more yards and touchdowns. But as you see, Andrew Luck only threw one touchdown off of 5 touchdowns, while Paxton Lynch threw 3 interceptions and Jay Cutler only got 2 touchdowns.
You see some good rushes by Kenyon Drake with 6 attempts for 94 yards. So he had a few big rushes. His
Um,
long being 78. And Tevin Coleman was 16 for 75 yards, so you dual threat there for the Dolphins.
yeah, but Matt Jones still trying to come out and play 89 yards and a touchdown. So it was even on both sides until you look at Tevin Coleman being part of Miami alongside Kenyon Drake. Receiving, undefeated your boy. Uh, Ungwe decided to name this rookie wide receiver your boy. 23 receptions, 264 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So you see where most of his passing went to. Probably why there was 3 interceptions by Paxton Lynch.
Yeah, but that was a pretty good game there. And then you go down, you see Jarvis Landry and Kenny Stills both with over 100 yards. Jarvis Landry almost hitting 200 yards off
Both
of two
having
touchdowns.
and 4 receptions, having big games. And that's what hurts people with the Dolphins. It's like the Giants dual threat with Jarvis Landry and Kenny Stills. Um, Demir Burr, wide receiver, 2 years, also having 1 reception, 61 yards, and a touchdown himself. So it looks like that's a triple threat where Bird comes in at the last second, kind of only used for one play and makes it a good play.
And there's, if you go over to sacks, it was pretty even both sides. To both sides with 2 sacks, and then actually the Broncos had an extra sack with 2 people at .5.
Yeah, and it
No
looks
one,
like it's people that you usually look at, except for cornerbacks, which a lot of people in our league love to run the corner blitz. So
yeah, that corner blitz and the nickel blitz, yeah, that's very popular in this league.
yeah, as you can see, the two top are both corners on both teams, and then you got Sharif Floyd, and that's weird. 2 corners, and then it's 2 defensive tackles having the sacks on both sides. And then Shane Ray and another defensive tackle looking like they shared a sack together. Interceptions, Rashard Jones, DRC, Bobby McCain, and then Brandon Marshall having one himself.
And then if you go to fumble recoveries, you see that Carroll McKinley, a rookie left in, had a fumble recovery and he returned it 20 yards for the touchdown. So there was a defensive touchdown in this game too.
Hmm. Which begs to differ. I'm guessing with how even it was on defense, it looks like it was an offensive game. Just the Dolphins having a little more in the interceptions category to get offense going.
Yeah.
Well, good
So
job.
good
Good.
game
Yep.
by both opponents. Good job to the Dolphins for pulling that one out.
Let's see if he can do it
Um,
for week 14 too.
and then our next played game was you could see it was a really good defensive battle with Keon Cowboys versus Profit the Seahawks, and
Profit's
Keon
trying to
taking
come
this one
back,
16-10.
and Profit's trying to come back on after the tough season he's had so far. Dak press. Ooh, it was not an offensive game.
No, but it was interesting though because you could see Keon had a lot more yards offensively than Prophet did. So he probably was moving the ball more, but still not being able to score off of it.
Dak Prescott 355, one touchdown, four interceptions, and then Big Ben 217 yards, zero touchdowns, and four interceptions. But if you look at the interception side, it looks like it was a big turnover battle.
Yeah, a huge defensive battle for this game.
Rushing, Le'Veon Bell 19 rushes, 63 yards, and then Devonta Freeman 17 rushes for 58 yards, both having their own touchdown. Dak Prescott actually getting in there too, three three rushes, 21 yards, but a fumble. Le'Veon Bell and Dak fumbling.
Yeah, and the averages for both Bell and Freeman weren't that good, with 3.3 and 3.4.
Yeah.
So they were forcing the ball a little to them.
And then receiving, Le'Veon Bell actually being the receiver for the Seahawks. 3 attempts, 97 yards. And I think T.Y. Hilton actually got injured during this game. As you can see, only 4 attempts, 61 yards. But after the Seahawks, it's all Cowboys after that. It is all.
Yeah, so as you can see, Le'Veon Bell was pretty much the only noticeable performance from the Seahawks.
And then defensively, these sacks, won by Michael Bennett. Of course, Michael Bennett, even in his age, coming out for the Seahawks and playing like a beast.
And the only sack in the game, too.
Yeah. Interceptions wise, Bobby Wagner, not a surprise seeing Bobby. And then Jalen Smith, also not a surprise. Even though no one knows how Jalen Smith is going to play in real life, Jalen Smith in the game has pretty decent speed and also a user linebacker. So both user linebackers having the top top picks
Yeah.
for each side.
And then the next two picks are actually linebackers too, so I'm wondering if they were on that play being used or if they were just poor reads and threw it to the CPU controlled
And
play.
then it's Cam Chancellor actually moved from safety to linebacker having a pick, and then Deshaun Sheed, a cornerback, having a pick. So it looks like it was a linebacker game for the picks. Any uh, there was a fumble, but was there any fumble recoveries? No, no fumble recoveries. Was there defensive touchdowns? No. Yeah, it must have.
And
That means it must have been a kicking game, if I'm being completely
yeah.
honest with this.
If before we move on to the next game, I want to bring up the kicking stats on this. You can see both kickers
Yeah.
only 1 for 3. So I'm wondering if those two missed kickers from each side would have made a difference if they had gone in.
Hmm.
And with kicking, you can actually see a little bit more detail. You can go over and scroll up to what their yardages were. And it says there was an attempt in the 49 yard range from I'm sorry, the 39 to 49 yard range, and that was one attempt and or sorry, two attempts and one made, and then he attempted a kick from over 50 yards and didn't make that one. So I'm wondering if either of those two missed kicks had anything to do with the outcome of this game.
Which begs to differ. If they missed this many times and there wasn't defensive touchdowns. Oh yeah, that's right. They did both have a. Did they both have a touchdown in rushing, right? And
Um, yeah, they both did have a touchdown in rushing,
and
and then
then
there
they
was only one touchdown thrown by the Cowboys.
and it was 16-10.
Yeah, he probably so he missed one of the extra points. No? Huh. Because he made a field goal and
And
they
then the
maybe he
extra
tried to go
points,
for
they're both.
Okay, yeah, he tried to go for two one of the times and didn't get it. Because if you because you can see that he only had one attempt for the extra
Yeah,
point, and they
so he
scored
must
two
have gone.
touchdowns.
Alright. Ah, yeah, that'd make a lot of sense. You go 7-10, and then they get a extra point, and you try to put the game away at 18-10, meaning if they'd have even if they made a score, they'd have to go for another 2 point conversion just to tie it up.
Yeah.
Good job to both. It was a really good game uh, on both sides. Uh, just the Cowboys came out on top on that one.
Yeah, and I know sometimes the score in defensive games doesn't always look good, but from my end, this is all opinion, but from my end, I would rather prefer to see these defensive battles because it puts a lot of pressure on each side on offense, and it's just a really interesting game to watch to see what people are going to try and do to move the ball. So these games are really interesting to watch from my
Yeah,
point of view.
I love watching defensive battles where it goes back and forth. Yeah, on offense it looks really bad, but it's a better game to watch on a defensive point of view. And what's our next
So
game actually? The Eagles versus
I
the Raiders. Played twice, which seems to be happening a lot with the Eagles user.
Yeah, it's just probably poor connection issues.
But we're gonna go into it anyway. It was 42-21. Um, it looks like Willie Beeman won off of rushing yards because the Eagles did have more passing yards and first downs. Oh, but if look going down that list, he had 6 turnovers. Oof. EJ Manuel, that is not a name you see for a starting quarterback in most franchises.
Yeah. Yeah, Jameis Winston going down hard, and he'll be out for a while with that injury.
But you really don't see people. You'll see people pick up Johnny Manziel or Josh McCown or something. But EJ Manuel actually coming in playing great. 250 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. Carson Wentz with more yards, but 3 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. Sacked 5 times.
And then going over to rushing, 30 attempts for 192 yards for David Johnson. And his average was 6.4, so some pretty good performance there.
First down for every 2 plays. So even though the attempts look bad, he did still have 192 yards and 2 touchdowns with a fumble, but broke 3 tackles. And if you look next, it's Duke Johnson Jr. 3 attempts, 40 yards, makes his average look better, but he didn't have a touchdown and he fumbled. Oh, look at this. If you go down, DeAndre Washington, 5'8", running back, 1 attempt, 7 yards, and a touchdown himself.
This is a nice red zone carry right there.
Yeah. Probably a
Mm,
power back. Probably someone who can just power through.
yeah, and you see David Johnson with a fumble, Duke Johnson with a fumble, and Carson Wentz with a fumble.
Ah. Carson Wentz also had 2 broken tackles. It looks
That's
like
something you usually don't
it,
see from a quarterback.
unless it was in the pocket and then he didn't have anybody to throw to, so he tried running, but instead of sliding, he took a hit.
Yeah.
Receiving, who did the receiver? Torrey Smith on the Eagles, 7 receptions, 139 yards, and a touchdown. But as you can see, here's Alshon Jeffrey with 3 receptions, 59 yards, and a touchdown too. Jordan Matthews with his own touchdown, and then Jakeem Grant actually getting there for one long touchdown. Probably to really seal that game away.
Yeah.
He's only 5'6" though, so he must have burned somebody for that touchdown. What are we see? What are we seeing on the defense though? Since it looks like it was a defensive game, where actually it's
A
not
lot of
who
sacks.
It's not who I thought was going to be on this sack list. Khalil Mack
So
not doing much during that game.
yeah,
But
he only had 3 tackles in that game and
yeah,
1 tackle for loss. So really, I mean, we can't look at pressure, but as from the looks of it, not getting much pressure from him.
but Stephon Anthony, T.J. Carey, and Chandler Jones and DeAndre Hall all getting in there.
And if we move over to interceptions, you see Dion Buchanan, who was actually
Oof.
moved to free safety with 2 interceptions. And then you see, if you scroll over to fumble recoveries, you see that Chandler Jones recovered one of those 3 fumbles, and he returned it 41 yards for the touchdown.
Was he our only? He was our only defensive. Well, how long was that? 41 yards. No one on the Eagles could catch up to Chandler Jones going 41 yards. That's a good game for Willie B, man. Congratulations to you after I know it's been a difficult season for him so far. He started off good and he's kind of went down, but good job to him against a decent opponent.
And I don't think he's quite out of his division race yet. I think he's still in it.
Uh, Jets versus the Chiefs. I saw this one. I think you saw this one.
Yeah.
Jets winning over the Chiefs. Even it was a close game though. Chiefs
Yeah,
not giving
I
up in
want to
the
say right off the bat, that was a good job for the Chiefs to make it as close as this game was.
31 to 24. And if you just look at the box score, offensive, he stopped the rushing game, but the Jets in our league is really not known for a rushing game.
And actually, the turnover battle in this game was 2 turnovers by the Chiefs and 4 by the Jets. So usually the Jets is the team that wins the turnover battle, and the Chiefs were actually the team to
Ooh,
win at this game.
yeah. Kevin Hogan, 353 yards, 3 touchdowns, and only throwing an interception, but he was sacked 6 times. Ooh, that Chiefs O line just giving up a lot there.
Yeah, a
It,
lot of sacks this game.
maybe he wouldn't have. Maybe it would have been even closer, even the Chiefs game, if the O line had kept those sacks down. Christian Hackenberg, 374, 2 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. Looks like it went downhill in that game for Christian Hackenberg.
And then going over to rushes, you see this really wasn't a rushing game. It was more of a passing game.
Kevin Hogan actually having the most rushing yards as a QB over Lamar Miller and
And
DeMarco Murray.
only only 4 rushing attempts with the running back for the Chiefs, so you could tell he was planning on coming out and passing a lot.
Yeah, probably to try to break the Jets and try to get downfield faster.
Yeah. And you see, if you go over to receiving, you see Travis Kelsey leading with 9 receptions for 157 yards and 2 touchdowns, which is typical. You expect to see that from the Chiefs.
From Travis Kelsey himself too.
Yeah.
And then Braden Bowman coming out another tight end having over 100 yards, 8 receptions, no touchdowns, but he's still 2 tight ends actually leading the rushing game or the the passing game for both teams. Cooper Kupp coming out 6 receptions, 88 yards and a touchdown. But you see Jeremy Maclin, 8-year veteran, for one big play by the Chiefs.
Yeah, and he was the long of the game with 80 yards.
Because I think if I remember right, Tyreek Hill is actually injured too. So he didn't. I don't
Yeah,
think.
he could be.
I think I looked at that before we started this. Tyreek Hill's injured, so he might have been injured before going into this game. Maybe Tyreek Hill would have made a big difference for the Chiefs.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got that crazy speed that even if you play good defense, sometimes he just gets by you.
Defensive side, sacks. Ezekiel Anza, former Lion, playing for the Jets, 4 sacks. Oof. He came out to play.
Yeah, and that was a crazy good performance by him.
Darren Lee, Philip Gaines, Deion Simmons, and then Justin Houston and Jay Howard sharing one themselves. Which I'm really surprised Justin Houston didn't get more pressure with his crazy stats for pass rushing.
Yeah, I mean he's a good pass rusher and he's known for that, so it's a little surprising. And if
Oof.
you move over to interceptions, you see every interception was by a defensive back. So no, and I mean unless someone uses a DB, no user picks in this one.
But it's
It looks
three of these aren't really surprising to see. Marcus Peters, Eric Berry, and Brent Grimes.
yeah,
So
and Adoree Jackson getting in there with an interception too for the Chiefs, and then for the Jets you had D Milner and Daryl Roberts.
is there?
Two,
Yeah, man. So it's looks like it was a big game for defense for the Chiefs. So, but it looks like those sacks really got to him, and he couldn't get anything really going. Defensive touchdowns, there were none. So maybe if one of those defensive backs that got these interceptions could have turned out for the Chiefs, it would have been his game or a closer game.
yeah. And if you go over to punt return, you see that the Jets did have a punt return for a touchdown with
Oh,
a running back, Jarrell Presley. It was a 92-yard punt return for a touchdown.
so it was on their 8 yard line when they started. Which usually, if it's a punt like that, the kicking team usually can get there and tackle them.
Yeah, and a lot of times the return team won't even field that punt.
Good job to the Chiefs and the Jets. I think that was one of the best games for the week actually. For it to be the Jets and the Chiefs. Chiefs coming back from a really ugly start, but and trying to give. They are actually they were the first one to give the Cowboys their first loss on an undefeated season, and it looks like he wanted to give the Chiefs another loss for their season. But let's go to your game, 30-9, and BG Avedon actually beat Justin Maldo last week. Tell me what happened during your game, because as it looks like it Jacoby Brissett, 201 yards, a touchdown, no interceptions. Marcus Mariota, 273 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. Just to take us through your game.
Yeah, this game was, you see that score, but most of this was in the first half. I did have a field goal in the second half, but the score was 27-9 at halftime. So everything coming in the first and second quarters. And the Titans had all their points in the first quarter. So after the first quarter, we were both thinking, okay, this is going to be a close game. Two divisional opponents this is our fourth time playing each other in combo league. But it turned out to just be a game that I controlled from there on out. But I think what hurt him was the turnovers, and he really wasn't able to move the ball that well. And when he finally was able to move the ball, he threw interceptions. And I had a pretty balanced game offensively with 113 rushing yards and 201 passing yards.
Going from the box
No,
score to the player stats, though, I went from passing to rushing. TJ Yeldon had 21 attempts, 113 yards, and a touchdown, plus a fumble, only averaging 5.4. But Jamal Charles, one attempt for 51 yards. What was that play that gave that TJ Yeldon couldn't get something going and had so many attempts, but Jamal Charles just came out and got you a really big gain?
and that was actually in the last few minutes of the game when I was trying to run the clock down. TJ Yeldon was really tired, and I really hadn't put in another running back except for I did put in Stewart a few times in short yardage situations. But so Charles was fresh off the bench. He had full stamina. He came out, and at that point the defense was really tired too. So he was able to outrun a lot of people, and he it was an inside zone that he filled the gap pretty well. So I just bounced it out and was able to get to the edge and almost break it free for a touchdown. But he did catch up to me.
Yeah, because Jamal Charles, real life, when he played at Texas, when I followed him, and even in the NFL, he's not a speed back. He's a power back, and to see a big gain like that, where the Tennessee defense could not catch up, it's a big eye opener that you were able to do that.
Yeah, and then you see Todd Gurley with
Ooh.
12 attempts for 23 yards, and yeah, he really just couldn't pull out the run game. And I think that's honestly, I think ignoring the turnovers, I think that's what hurt him the most because he usually wins when he has big rushing games, and he couldn't get the ball on the ground moving in that game.
Receiving, Rashard Matthews having a game, 3 receptions, 130 yards. But your rookie, 5'9", uh, re- receiver, 5 receptions, 105 yards in his own touchdown. And it looks like that was y'all's biggest two receivers on both sides, because then you just fall off to like 55 and lower for everybody else.
Yeah, it was a pretty balanced game, but yeah, Zuta with the he's only 5'9", and he's actually you see 5'9" and you think okay he must be fast, and he's actually only got 90 speed, so he's not a
So
real
he's
speed guy
so he's a
either.
he's a he's a base speed wide receiver that most rookies start out as.
Yeah, but he's a really clutch receiver. He catches like almost everything I throw at him. He was drafted on superstar development,
Oof.
so that's why I chose to ignore the height and speed because I knew he
What
would be
what round did you
special.
pick him up actually? When did you pick him up?
I picked him up with my third pick in the first round. I had three first round picks,
Oh.
and I picked him with my last pick in the first.
Well, good job to both teams in that. But defensively, this is what we came to see just because of the turnover battle, and both y'all having one, each having a sack, one by a middle linebacker, Avery Williamson, and then Telvin Smith, another middle linebacker. Actually, left outside linebacker changed the middle. I'm guessing he's your user.
He's actually not my user. He's
Oh.
Miles Jack is actually my user, but yeah, that was a blitz that he was able to get that sack on.
And interceptions, Dante Fowler Jr. Isn't he a lineman?
Yeah, he was a defensive end in a 4-3 scheme, but I was looking and his zone coverage was really easy to upgrade and he's got good speed. So I decided to move him to the outside, give him a shot there, and he's actually done pretty good for me out there.
Nate Lowe, strong safety, rookie, 6 foot tall though, having his pick. Manuel Ogba, which is not a surprise. Ogba is a very good right outside linebacker. And then Jalen Ramsey getting in there like always for you, because he's been playing well, of course.
And Fowler, actually, that was a pick six. So what happened was he was on the 3 yard line. It was somewhere close to the goal line,
three
and
3 yard
yeah,
reception return,
I it
man.
was it was I remember it was after a punt. I had punted it and I pinned him close to the goal line, and he tried to pass play, and he I had pressure on that play, so he dumped it off really quick, and I had Fowler in a hard flat, and he tried to dump it off to the running back, and I just got out there and picked, and since he was in the hard flat, he picked it off and just walked into the end zone.
I bet you he only walked into the end zone. Well, good job to you uh, and Evidon trying to come back. It seemed like he tried. Uh, good job to everybody in week 13. It looks like it was a fun week going back and forth, looking at everybody from the first quarter to the fourth quarter. Uh, good job to everybody. Hopefully, week 14 works out better for some people and works out worse for others. We will see. Um, Anything else, Lima, about these games, or any inspirational speeches you want to give to anybody watching that plays Madden or is in the league and watching for week 14?
um, I mean, just keep fighting for all those people on the playoff bubble. On the outside looking in, and on the inside still trying to hold their spots. Just keep fighting. Just try and play your best game, and hopefully everything works out for you, and hopefully everyone. I mean, obviously not everyone can make the playoffs, but good luck to everyone there. Yeah, just keep fighting.
Well, thank you for everybody who is watching. We hope you did enjoy. If you're new to the channel, like always, hit that subscribe button. We're trying to just get this out and maybe give inspiration to anybody in leagues or anybody that just plays and you just see how everybody in the league plays and you want to just try to take some things off of people. If you did like the video, hit that like button for us. As always, I am your host, Avengers. Alongside me is my partner, Lima.
And we'll see you in our next video, which is coming up shortly.
And we will all see you for Week 14's recap in the next week.